The United States just announced that it may lift sanctions on Iranian oil, the same Iranian oil it spent years sanctioning, while it is still actively at war with Iran, probably so that it can continue bombing Iran. For years, the US has imposed some of the harshest oil sanctions in history on Iran. Maximum pressure, they called it. The goal? It was to choke Iran's economy, cut off its revenue, and force it to renegotiate on its nuclear program. On the 28th of February, the US and Israel launched surprise attacks on Iran. Iran responded by effectively shutting the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway where nearly 20% of the world's oil passes through. Oil went from around $70 a barrel to over $111. So what has the US done? Well, in week one, the US lifted sanctions on Russian oil. Russia, the same country that is currently sharing intelligence and drone technology with Iran. In week two, the US eased sanctions on Venezuelan oil. And now, in week three, the Treasury Secretary of the US goes on TV and says that they may unsanction 140 million barrels of Iranian oil that's sitting on tankers around the world. And then he said this. He said, quote, "We would be using the Iranian barrels against the Iranians to keep the price down for the next 10 or 14 days as we continue this campaign." He also said that once the sanctions are lifted, the oil goes up to market price and flows to countries other than China, which means Iran's oil actually becomes more valuable because of this decision. So just to be clear, the US sanctioned Iran's oil to pressure the regime, started a war that caused oil prices to collapse the global economy, and is now lifting those same sanctions to afford the war it started. Iran spent years asking for sanctions relief and the US said no. Now, the US is doing it anyway, except Iran didn't have to negotiate. It just had to close the strait.